Welcome to Highly Sensitive, Happily Married, the podcast that teaches you to not only have an easier marriage as a sensitive woman, but to have one that feels more amazing by the day. Where you'll hear relatable stories, love advice that works, and coaching on how to have a marriage where feeling upset and disconnected is a thing of the past, and where instead a sense of loving connection and even fun and lightness is the norm. I'm Hannah Brooks, highly sensitive person, love expert, and marriage coach, and I'm so happy to be on this journey with you. Hello and welcome. Today is a really practical episode, 8 tips for traveling with your partner that will apply to you even if you don't have any big travel plans on your agenda, which many of you might not, because I realize I'm getting this to you kind of after the bigger traveling season of this summer is over, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. But I hope that this will help anyway, because the tips that I offer are great, even for small outings, which, traveling together, getting out just for a day or a half day here and there, those are really great things to make sure you engage in with your partner. Getting away from the routine and having new experiences together with your honey really is key to keeping things fresh and fun in your marriage. But as an HSP, and especially as an introverted HSP, which the majority of highly sensitive people are, certainly not all of us, but for us especially, it can be a bit daunting to get out and see the world, especially with a non-HSP partner, which the majority of us have, because again, non-HSPs make up about 70 to 80% of the population. So it's more likely than not that your partner is not highly sensitive, but he might be highly sensitive. Either way, this episode's going to help. So let me go back in time first here. One of the very first signs that something was kind of different about me, that I was a highly sensitive person before I knew of such a term and what that meant. One of the very first signs for me was how hard it was for me to be around crowds, or even just to see a lot of new sights kind of in a short period of time. So between the ages of 12 and 16, when like going to the mall was still a really cool thing to do, I oftentimes, only about half an hour into our mall trip, would start asking myself, what's wrong with me? Because what would be happening was I'd start to feel really zoned out, totally zoned out. Some of you might really relate to this in a mall setting. And I'd feel really unable to make any decisions or buy anything at all. And I just want to, all I really would want to do is sit down or leave the mall as soon as possible. It was like my brain would just kind of go on the fritz, right? And now I understand that I was just simply overstimulated, right, by all the people and all the shopping and all the things to see and all the bright lights and all the noise and all the things, right? Now I understand that that's really just a normal way my high sensitivity expressed itself and continues to till this day, right? But back then, I really thought something was just weird about me because it wasn't happening in the same way to some of my friends. And, even nowadays, I sometimes still forget that this is the case and that this is how my system works and how to even work with it when it comes to traveling or getting out in the world. So I kind of forgot, maybe because of the pandemic, and I hadn't been traveling much for over a year, right? So my husband and I went on our yearly anniversary trip a couple weeks ago, and some stuff came up, and it got me really thinking about these challenges that we might, as highly sensitive people, tend to have, and how they might be coming up for you too. And what we can do about them, of course. I personally have always been a big traveler, but I've also always had a hard time with various aspects of traveling, even though I love being in beautiful new places, I love seeing new parts of the world, the crowds, and also just like the act of getting to and from new places, and also sort of navigating a new environment. All of that can be really challenging and can even sort of turn me off to traveling because my system tends to get so overloaded. So again, this anniversary trip that we took a couple weeks ago, it really like highlighted a lot of this for me. I think especially after all this quiet, introverted time that many of us have had during the pandemic. And also we've tended over the last however many years to kind of travel more locally. We live in Vermont and it's just beautiful here in the summer. I love going on more local trips out into the countryside. So this time we went to the east, to the small city on the coast of the East Coast, and I was really struck by how overstimulated I got on the first day in this sort of bustling port city, and just traveling to get there throughout various busier states than Vermont. So, on that first day to get to the coast, we spent a few hours driving through really some beautiful scenery and some cool old towns, and of course lots of cars on the highway. And I really enjoyed the ride and being with my husband. But once we got to our Airbnb, I like totally crashed. I felt so much overwhelm, and I actually found myself crying. It took me a little while to like really recognize what was going on. But once I did understand what was happening, I was really able to actually honor my sensitive system and actually then make a plan to be much more proactive about it for the rest of the trip, so that my energy bunny husband could also enjoy his time, right? And so I wouldn't kind of put a damper on the trip for him, which I think that's kind of a common worry and challenge for highly sensitives in a relationship with a non-highly sensitive person like my husband. So it was a good learning experience, deepened my understanding about traveling as a highly sensitive person, especially with a non-highly sensitive partner. Someone who, Elaine Aaron, who's one of the first people to ever talk about high sensitivity, she calls high sensation seeking, right? So a lot of people, whether we're highly sensitive or not highly sensitive, can be particularly high sensation seeking, loving lots of stimulation is kind of what that means. Many of us are not high sensation seeking or extroverted, like myself, whereas my husband is definitely a high energy guy. He loves to get out there on an adventure. And I'm my kinds of adventure, the kinds that fulfill me and feel good to me are kind of different sometimes than the ones that he is into. So this is like really normal in relationships. Most couples do have some differences in the way they like to get out into the world, right? How they like to travel, how they like to do mini adventures or bigger adventures. And of course, like all of these differences can really be worked with to find a way that works for the couple as a whole, right? But I really do think it can be especially challenging when one partner is a highly sensitive person and one isn't, or one is extroverted and one is introverted. That can pose some challenges that are completely navigatable, but can be challenging. So some of those challenges for us highly sensitive people when it comes to getting out in the world, adventuring, traveling with our partner can be, like my experience often has been, is simply getting too much input into that sensitive system of ours, right? Like literally just driving and seeing house after house, car after car. For me, like that really overloads my sensory system after a while, right? Even if it's like beautiful things that I'm looking at, too much of it, overwhelm, like shut down, fried brain, like a grouchiness sets in, right? Another challenge is sometimes like too many options too many possibilities of things we could do. And it's just like hard for us to decide, which again is a lot of information coming into our system, which can lead to a kind of overload and paralysis. So maybe you're familiar with that experience. Or another challenge is like having a partner who has, big plans for the time with you on and lots of things on the schedule for your trip together. Or like when you travel for a big event, like a family reunion or a wedding, like, right, when there's all of that on the agenda and there's all these people and all these things to do, like, oof, right? Talk about overstimulation. Maybe that's not your experience, but I know that's a lot of highly sensitive people's experience. Another challenge can be worrying about what you want or need, how that what you want or need might actually be boring or not at all what your husband or partner was hoping for. Like worry that you're going to disappoint your partner, right? And so one thing that can come up for us highly sensitive people is we may say yes to doing more things than we want to please our partner, right? And then like having the consequence for ourselves of getting really grouchy and exhausted, which can end up not being fun for either of you. I've had plenty of experiences in the past like that. Another challenge can be not being able to sleep in a new place, right? Not being able to sleep in a new bedroom where the mattress, the weight of the blankets, the light might all be different from what your cozy nest at home is like, right? We tend to get used to our spaces, and as sensitive people can sort of want or need some really specifically comfy things for our bodies, and like my beloved pillow that I take with me when I travel often. So that even that alone, sleeping in a new environment can be challenging for us. Even finding, foods that work for us. I know many highly sensitive people have some food sensitivities or things that they don't tolerate well. So traveling and eating the foods that are available there might be challenging for your system. And for sure, if you're visiting friends or family, one thing that can come up with, again, us highly sensitive people who might have a tendency to people please, you may have this tendency to think you need to engage with your family or your friends and really make the most of this time together by spending all your time with them, by spending the whole day engaging with the people that you've gone to see. Right? Now, all of this can lead to exhaustion, depletion, low energy, crashing, grumpiness, irritability, arguments with our partner, having a generally bad time, and really maybe eventually even deciding or just like instinctively avoiding traveling and getting out into the world a lot altogether. I know I've sort of, before I got more aware of this for myself, I went through a phase where I started to just like not want to go anywhere because it was just, it was exhausting. Yeah. So, but of course, again, like I have been learning how to support my sensitive system a lot better while at the same time honoring my husband's desire for adventure and sightseeing and sort of the way he likes to travel. So if you've found traveling or day adventuring a bit tricky to really enjoy with your partner or to even want to do it all, I want to offer you these 8 tips right now. So you can enjoy traveling, so you can have adventures together, and so that you all of you involved, you, your partner, and even your kids, if you have them, can actually enjoy these times away from home. All right, so number 1 tip. When you are in transit, when you're in the car, when you're on the train, when you're on the plane, bring an eye pillow, an eye mask, either one. An eye pillow is better for when you're able to lie down or lean back like in the car. It actually puts a little weight and on your forehead or your eyes and can actually can help the vagal nerve, which is the parasympathetic rest and digest part of your system, turn on, which is a really great thing. It helps you, basically, in other words, it helps you rest a little bit more deeply. But an eye mask can be also really great, or you're just strapping that around when you're sitting up straight or even lying, just to block out the light, give your brain a rest so it doesn't have to take in all the sights for the whole trip. Okay, super good. And on that same note, in this same tip is one thing that a lot of highly sensitive people do. This, I don't usually do this myself, but I know it's a thing that a lot of people do, is bring earbuds or big, like thick, like earphones, whatever, that block out the noise, right? And or use what's called pink noise. It's kind of like white noise. You can find various pink noise sounds on any place that you listen to music. You can just type in pink noise. Or really, you can, put on some of your favorite really calming, soothing music. So all of this is going to help you rest or help your nervous system decompress a little bit and take you away from this constant stimulation that literally the traveling to and from a place can bring to your system. Yeah. So it'll reduce the input, which is really good for your system. So you'll feel more revived and ready for more stimulation when you're actually at the place you're going. Okay, tip 2. This is a really big one, and I would say this is the most important one, possibly, at least for me. Build in quiet moments or hours to any trip you're on. So make sure that you either have a couple hours to yourself at the hotel or the Airbnb, the place you're staying, right? Or out in nature every single day. Yes, a couple hours. That's my recommendation. Have a few, during that time, have a few decompressing activities. So that could just be a nap, right? Or reading a really relaxing, enjoyable book that's not overstimulating, like a nice, easy fiction book. Or, some of us really enjoy the journaling to process. I know that that's really helpful for my system, is to journal, or simply feeling your emotions can be part of it. Even just for 5 minutes, there is I think in episode 37, there's a great little outline of how to feel your feelings. That can be a really good way for your system to process things through, to kind of take out some of that internal stimulation that's happening. Right. My favorite thing to do in these 1 or 2 or 3 hour long breaks during a travel day is to do yoga nidra, which is basically a form of a body scan. It's a meditation. Love it. Always resets me, gets me so much more clear headed and energized and ready to explore an adventure with my husband again. So carve out some time every day for yourself to unwind. And I recommend doing that truly like as a siesta kind of thing, in the afternoon or early afternoon even. But you can explore and see what works for you. Tip 3, on that same note, don't overschedule your vacation. Okay, choose 1 or 2 things to do at most for the day, and then with some food trips in there as well, right? But really 1 main activity, maybe 2 at the most for the day, and really honor that fiercely. Okay, and this can be a little bit challenging, but you really just need to understand for yourself and know deeply that this is better, not just for your sensitive system, for you, but it will also allow you to be a more enjoyable travel companion, right? And it will really be a gift to your partner, even if he doesn't recognize it at first, even if he is a little disappointed that you don't want to adventure all day. So really, this what's really key here is your mindset, right? Believing that this, taking care of yourself in this way, not over scheduling yourself, and not doing too much and taking these breaks, like the second tip, right? That this is a true benefit for your trip and a way to make it great for your family and yourself, right? If you believe that, you'll be able to implement this and actually take that downtime and actually only schedule the amount that is good for your particular nervous system. Okay. So you might need to remind yourself more than a few times that that taking care of you in this way is actually a gift to your family and even like your community and your coworkers and the people whose lives you touch when you come back from your vacation, right? Because like, isn't the worst like taking a vacation that leaves you more tired when you get home than when you left, right? The point of a vacation is to have fun, but also to come back ready for your life again, right? Like rejuvenated. Okay. Tip 4, very related again. Be willing to disappoint your partner, okay, and even your kids by limiting how much you do in one day, right? Know that they're going to be okay if they want to go for an extra adventure without you. Actually encourage them to go on an extra adventure if they want to. Like that, like if that's what their jam is, like encourage it. Right? Have your husband take them or have your husband go off and do his own thing. On this last trip with my husband, he spent a couple hours the first day out mountain biking after we'd spent like the morning bike riding together. And when I was back at the apartment resting, like there was no way I wanted to go do that with him, but he was so excited to go off and do that. Right. And the second day, he went shopping while I was resting. He went shopping and exploring the downtown, which, I was totally happy to pass up, and he was super excited to go do. So, split up, do different things. You honor you, he honors him. Tip 5. This is again related to this last one, but like you get to take the lead in creating the schedule for the trip. I highly recommend you take at least 50% of the responsibility for scheduling the trip. And really do a bunch of that ahead of time, right? So you're not having to make too many decisions on the actual trip, right? So that you plan activities that will meet both you and your partner's desires, right? And you're not spending too much brain space or energy trying to make those decisions spontaneously. I mean, obviously, like leave room for spontaneity, of course. But the more you plan ahead, the less energy it's going to take for you on the trip. So again, planning activities that will, meet both of your desires. You get to be kind of creative about it. Like, does your partner love eating out, but like you hate the big, bustling, overwhelming restaurants, like those pubs with the loud music and the TV screens and all the people? Yeah, I don't love those. So you could if that was the case for you, you could look for a place with outdoor seating, right? Or a really quiet, intimate restaurant. Does your partner, for example, love the beach, but you hate the heat and the crowds? Suggestion here, solution here to meet both of your desires is you could go for an early morning visit when way less people are there and it's cool, or a sunset trip, right? Or he could go to the beach in the heat of the day while you're resting, right? So there's so many creative solutions. And I highly suggest that you be willing to take the reins and kind of come up with some ideas. And you can invite him to do the same, of course. Tip 6, include nature activities. Okay, not all highly sensitive people maybe are as nature oriented as me, but so many of us are. There's a tendency for highly sensitive people to feel connected in nature, to feel really good in nature. And that could even be being around pets and animals, right? So way back when I was first a mom, I traveled out to Colorado, to Denver, to be part of my a dear friend's wedding, and it was a big city and it was a wedding. So there's a lot going on, lots of plans and rehearsal dinners and this and that. And oh boy, did I get overwhelmed. A couple days in, I was just crashing, but we still had the wedding. So, we decided to go to the Denver, I think it's called the Botanical Gardens. And it changed everything for me. We spent a couple hours just walking around and smelling the scents and just being in that sort of mini nature setting in the middle of a big city. And it was so good. I felt so much more centered and clear-headed again and way less exhausted by the end of that visit. So And exercising in nature is especially good too, because you're getting all the good benefits of being out in nature and you're moving your body, which is a way to move stress out of the system. So try to plan some nature activities in there. Tip 7, stop telling yourself there's something wrong with you if on your adventure you start getting grouchy or irritable. It's a totally normal thing that happens to all of us when we're overstimulated. And as highly sensitive people, we're going to get there quicker, more often. So when that happens, it's simply a signal to take some time to process all the stimulation, integrate, and really just like get you some quiet, find some solitude, take some decompression time. And that might just mean, in addition to that couple hours in the middle of the day, like find 5 minutes for yourself where you put that eye pillow back on or you do some deep breathing. You know, I talked about this a couple episodes ago with Amy LePage, those little micro moments of rest, of what we call micro interventions, like deep breathing or feeling into your body, like so many different possibilities here, but taking that time to go inside yourself, kind of connecting with what's going on for yourself, and sometimes offering yourself a little mini practice, again, like deep breathing, that's going to just take a little stress out of your system and help you resettle and recenter and have a little more energy for the rest of the day. Tip number 8. Now, this is really, really a good one. This is after your adventure, your travel is over. Don't expect yourself to be back at 100%. Oftentimes as highly sensitives, we do need a mini vacation from our vacation. So the way I'd encourage going about this is plan ahead of time so that you have at least a day or even 2 of like a buffer before you have to go back to being fully quote unquote on, right? Like before you have to go back to work. Now, sometimes I know this isn't always possible, but it's a great thing if it's possible for you to have a day or 2 where you're just back at home before you have to go do anything else. And really take that day to have it be a recuperating day, a day to rest, a day to get out in nature, to walk, to exercise, to meditate, whatever it is that you love to do to bring yourself back to a kind of revivified, is that a word? I like that word, place. So if you do this, you're going to find your way back to like being really fully at your best, much more effective at work, right? And really ultimately much more able to access that kind, big, deep, loving heart of yours and really bring it to all the relationships in your life, your family, your friends, and your work and your community. Right? So it's big and important, especially and all of these tips together will lead to that too. So I hope that this gets you thinking and helps you be able to navigate the next getaway more easily so you and your partner and your family can have more fun and come home or come back to regular life much more rejuvenated. So explore them and play with them and try them all out, try a few out, see what works for you. Every one of us is a unique being, is a unique snowflake. So play with what works for you, but do try them. The last sort of side note or important thing here is that communication with your partner around all of this, it's possible that could be a challenge, right? Especially if your partner does not understand your sensitivity, if he doesn't understand that high sensitivity, a finely tuned nervous system is actually a real thing, okay? This can make this, like you taking the lead on this and you taking time for yourself, it can make it a little bit challenging, potentially, or there could be some misunderstanding or conflict around this. So, I think we'll likely talking about your sensitivity with your partner in another episode. But for now, I just want you to know this. The more that you personally believe in the value of honoring your sensitive, finely tuned nervous system and taking care of it, right? The more you experience the benefits of doing so, seeing the positive impact of honoring this sensitive, beautifully sensitive system of yours in your, like seeing the positive impact of it in your life, right? The more you will feel very solid and confident about making the adjustments in your travel plans and the adventures and in your life even to care for yourself, right? And then the more from that place, the more solid and confident you feel, the more you will convey that confidence and clarity to your husband. And the more he will be on board, right? The way that your energy around it, your certainty around it will transmit to him. And it will be much more likely that he'll be on board with supporting you in, traveling in a way that works for you. So experiment with these tips. Don't be afraid to dig in and really try them and notice how they make for a much better time for all involved. And if you have a minute and you've been enjoying this whole podcast or certain episodes, you found them useful to you in your life, I would be honored and so grateful if you would take a few moments to rate and review the podcast. Especially helpful on iTunes or Apple Podcasts to do so. But many of the other ones also have a place where you can rate and review the podcast. It would mean so much to me and help this podcast reach more highly sensitive women and more highly sensitive families. All you have to do is look at the particular app you're listening to this on, and it should somewhere say rate and review or one or the other of those words. And you can just go ahead and take a moment or two to do that. And it'll be a big benefit to others. So thank you so much for doing so. And a huge shout out to those of you who have already rated and reviewed the podcast. Thank you so much. It means so much to me. You are the best. And to each and every one of you listening today, be oh so well.